Welcome to this explainer on sovereign capital, where we're going to dive right into the architecture of global financial power. Usually when we think about money, we're picturing our own personal budgets, right? Or maybe we're stressing over inflation at the grocery store. But today, we're taking a massive step back. When you imagine how countries actually compete for global dominance, you probably picture traditional power, things like military strength, fleets of ships, and physical borders. But the truth is, modern geopolitical power is driven by a completely invisible arsenal. Dominance today doesn't come from what you can physically conquer. It comes from financial influence. Economies aren't just these domestic engines anymore. They are literally the primary way nations control the world stage.
The absolute bedrock of this modern influence? It's currency. But not just any currency. Certain currencies manage to completely transcend their own borders and become globally trusted. Think about it, when international businesses all decide to use a single currency worldwide, it creates this massive, relentless demand. And if your nation happens to be the one issuing that globally trusted currency, well, you are handed some undeniable economic advantages. We're talking significantly easier borrowing on the world stage, huge global financial influence, and a structurally stronger economic position that your rivals simply cannot touch.
Now let's talk about trade. It is really not just this friendly exchange of goods across borders. A nation can deliberately engineer its trade profile. They can systematically push exports, restrict specific imports, and build exclusive partnerships. Why go through all that trouble? Because of a very simple, undeniable rule in global finance. Trade creates economic dependence. And dependence, well, that creates influence. Pulling these levers basically transforms everyday commerce into a really sharp strategic weapon. And what happens when a nation needs to apply some devastating pressure, but they don't want to actually declare war? They turn to the modern equivalent of a medieval siege, sanctions. These are targeted financial restrictions deliberately designed to block a country's access to global banking, choke off its trade activity, and just completely freeze its international transactions. You're effectively cutting a nation off from the global bloodstream. It's an intense, crushing conflict without a single shot ever being fired. Another incredibly powerful tool in this invisible arsenal is what we call the debt playbook, and it is so methodical. Here's how it works. Step 1, a powerful country lends vast sums of money for massive infrastructure projects in developing nations. Step 2, all that capital builds these deep, binding economic relationships. Then comes step 3. Over the years, this carefully establishes a long-term dependence on the lender. And finally, step 4. That deep economic dependence translates right into hard political influence. The infrastructure was really just the vehicle. At the end of the day, the money literally becomes the strategy. To rapidly multiply that leverage, nations look straight to physical and intellectual resources. If you can control the raw power of energy, the cutting-edge dominance of technology, or the massive scale of global manufacturing, you aren't just boosting your domestic GDP. It acts as the ultimate multiplier. It structurally reinforces your global economic power, giving you the absolute authority to dictate terms to nations that just don't have those critical assets. But here's the thing, none of these elements exist in a vacuum. They form a fiercely interconnected system, a giant global web. Banks, markets, trade routes, currencies, they are all locked together. Modern economies are so deeply intertwined that the actual borders between them basically vanish when you look at the financial data. Because of the sheer speed and scale of this whole setup, one major economic event in some far-off corner of the globe instantly ripples across the entire world, affecting absolutely everything in its path.
But as we look at this massive, high-stakes architecture, it kind of begs a critical question. What truly powers this global system? What is the actual hidden engine that is keeping this unbelievably complex, high-speed web of global finance intact?
Well, the answer reveals just how fragile this entire web actually is. Because global financial systems run entirely on exactly one thing: investor confidence. The pillars holding up this massive structure are currency strength, economic health, and system stability. But the second global investors lose faith in any one of those three pillars, markets react, instantly and ruthlessly. The entire system is literally only as strong as the psychological belief holding it up.
Which brings us to a really stark, undeniable reality. Confidence itself becomes power. If you control the confidence, you control the whole system.
And as we look ahead, the arena where this confidence is won or lost is shifting incredibly fast. The future of global financial power isn't just going to rely on traditional banks or standard currencies anymore. Modern financial competition is changing completely. It's moving toward digital finance, highly advanced AI systems, and robust tech infrastructure. The nations that build the fastest, most secure digital systems, they're going to be the ones setting the rules for the next century. Future economic dominance might just depend entirely on aggressive technological leadership.
So let's bring this all full circle. It is completely natural for you to look at money and just see personal finance, your savings, your investments, the cost of living. But at the global level, money is a completely different beast. It secretly dictates global alliances, it establishes spheres of influence, and it dictates international power structures. The financial systems that you and I interact with every single day are actively shaping the geopolitics that govern our entire world. In the modern world, money is so much more than currency. It is influence, it is strategy, it is power. Once you start to understand these underlying systems, the globally trusted currencies, the strategic trade levers, those carefully calculated debt playbooks, you finally start to see how countries use money as the ultimate tool for dominance. You really begin to understand how the modern world actually works. This invisible arsenal is always at work all around us, shaping policies, shifting borders, and redefining alliances. We know for sure that the biggest battles today are financial. The only question left is, who is winning the war for your world?
This is CorpFile, inside the world of big brands. Subscribe to explore the real stories behind the companies that shape our world.